There comes a moment in life when you realize something that hurts, but also sets you free. Not everyone will be happy for you. Not everyone will clap when you rise. Not everyone will smile when your life begins to change. Not everyone will celebrate the door that finally opened, after you spent years knocking on doors that would not move. And if you are not careful, you will spend the rest of your life wondering why. Why did they become distant when I started doing better? Why did they stop calling when I became confident? Why did my happiness make them uncomfortable? Why did the people I expected to celebrate me suddenly become quiet? But listen carefully. Their silence is not proof that you are wrong. Sometimes people become uncomfortable when they see you becoming someone they can no longer control, predict, or understand. They were comfortable with the version of you who doubted herself, who apologized for taking up space, who waited for permission, who questioned every dream before daring to pursue it. And then one day you changed. You stopped begging to be chosen. You stopped explaining every decision. You stopped shrinking your dreams so other people could feel bigger beside you. And suddenly the room felt different. That is when you must learn one of the hardest lessons of maturity. Your growth will not always receive applause from the people who knew you before you grew. Do not turn around because somebody refused to celebrate your arrival. Do not make yourself smaller because someone else cannot handle your becoming. Your life is not a committee meeting. Your future does not require unanimous approval. You do not need everyone to understand what you are building before you build it. There will be people who misunderstand your confidence and call it arrogance. People who mistake your boundaries for cruelty. People who interpret your independence as rejection. People who will watch you succeed and quietly wonder why it wasn't them. Let them wonder. You are not here to convince everybody. You are here to become fully alive. And perhaps the greatest freedom is learning to celebrate yourself without waiting for someone else to hand you permission. Because when you finally understand that not everyone will be happy for you, you stop chasing their approval, and you begin protecting the precious thing you almost lost while trying to earn it, your own joy. There is a particular kind of loneliness that arrives when you begin to grow. It does not always come from being alone. Sometimes it comes from standing in a room full of people who knew the old version of you and realizing that they do not know what to do with the person you are becoming. You may expect their excitement. You may imagine their congratulations. You may believe that the people who say they love you will naturally celebrate every door that opens for you. But life teaches a quieter, harder truth. Not everyone will be happy when you begin to flourish. Some people loved you when you were struggling because your struggle made them feel familiar with you. They knew where you stood. They understood your fears. They knew the limits you had placed around yourself. But when you begin to move beyond those limits, something changes. Your confidence may remind someone else of what they have not yet found within themselves. Your courage may expose their hesitation. Your progress may force them to look at dreams they abandoned long ago, and instead of celebrating your growth, they may distance themselves from it. That does not necessarily mean you have done anything wrong. Sometimes people resist change because change makes them uncomfortable. They may have created an identity for you in their minds, and when you no longer fit that identity, they do not know how to respond. They remember you as the person who needed advice, needed reassurance, needed rescuing, or constantly questioned your worth. Then suddenly you are making decisions without asking permission. You are walking away from situations that once trapped you. You are speaking with certainty. You are building something that once existed only in your imagination, and some people will not recognize that transformation as strength. They may call you selfish because you finally learned to protect your peace. They may say you have changed as though changing were an accusation. They may become strangely quiet when you share good news. They may congratulate you with words while their energy tells another story. They may compare your success with their own circumstances, rather than simply being happy that something beautiful has happened in your life. This is where you must become careful with your heart. Do not allow another person's inability to celebrate you to become evidence that you should stop celebrating yourself. Do not take their discomfort and turn it into shame. Do not question every blessing simply because someone else cannot appreciate it. You are allowed to grow. You are allowed to become more confident, more peaceful, more independent, more successful, and more honest about what you want from life. You are allowed to leave behind habits, environments, and relationships that no longer belong to the person you are becoming. Growth does not require you to remain understandable to everyone. And remember, you do not have to become bitter because someone failed to celebrate you. You can understand them without carrying them. You can wish them well without returning to the smaller version of yourself they preferred. You can keep your heart open while keeping your boundaries firm. The people meant to walk with you will not demand that you remain small so they can feel comfortable. They will not ask you to hide your light. They will see your progress and feel inspired rather than threatened by it. They will celebrate your victories without turning them into competitions. So when your life begins to change and some people become distant, do not immediately assume that you have lost something valuable. Sometimes what feels like rejection is simply life revealing who can genuinely walk beside the person you are becoming and who was only comfortable with the person you used to be. There is a painful truth about success that many people discover only after they begin to experience it. Your progress can make some people uncomfortable. You may think that when something beautiful happens in your life, everyone around you will naturally celebrate it. You imagine friends smiling, family members encouraging you, and people who once watched you struggle finally feeling proud of how far you have come. Sometimes that happens. But sometimes your success reveals feelings in others that have nothing to do with you, and everything to do with how they see themselves. When someone becomes jealous of your progress, it is tempting to make yourself smaller. You may stop talking about your achievements. You may hide your excitement. You may avoid sharing your dreams because you do not want someone else to feel inadequate. You may even begin apologizing for having opportunities that another person does not have. But you must understand something important. You are not responsible for managing someone else's insecurity by destroying your own confidence. You cannot dim your light and call it kindness. You cannot abandon your dreams simply because someone else is afraid to pursue theirs. You cannot keep yourself trapped in an old version of your life just because another person feels comfortable when you are struggling beside them. Your responsibility is not to make everyone comfortable with your growth. Your responsibility is to grow with humility, gratitude, and integrity. There is a difference between arrogance and confidence. Arrogance says, I am better than you. Confidence says, I finally believe I am capable. You do not need to look down on anyone to recognize how far you have come. You can celebrate yourself without humiliating someone else. You can acknowledge your accomplishments without turning them into weapons. And if someone feels threatened simply because you are becoming stronger, that feeling belongs to them. Think about how often people are taught to apologize for their happiness. They achieve something and immediately become afraid of making others uncomfortable. They receive an opportunity and feel guilty for accepting it. They begin healing and worry that people will accuse them of changing. They become financially successful and fear being judged. They discover confidence and suddenly feel responsible for everyone else's feelings about their confidence. But your happiness is not an insult. Your healing is not an attack. Your success is not a declaration that someone else has failed. There will always be someone ahead of you, someone behind you, someone walking a completely different road. If you measure your life by everyone else's circumstances, you will never feel free enough to appreciate your own journey. Let people have their feelings without allowing those feelings to become instructions for your life. If someone is jealous, you do not have to fight them. If someone becomes distant, you do not have to chase them. If someone refuses to celebrate you, you do not have to beg them for applause. Keep moving. Stay humble, but do not become invisible. Stay compassionate, but do not abandon yourself. Be grateful for what you have, but do not feel guilty for receiving more. Your life is allowed to expand beyond the expectations other people placed upon you. The right people will not demand that you become less so they can feel more. They will look at your growth and understand that your light does not make theirs disappear, because genuine happiness does not require another person's life to become smaller. Sometimes people will tell you exactly how they feel without ever saying the words. It can happen in the pause after you share good news, in the smile that never quite reaches their eyes, in the sudden change of subject when you talk about something you are proud of, or in the strange distance that appears when your life begins moving forward. Not every silence means jealousy, and not every change in behavior should be interpreted negatively. But there are moments when a person's actions reveal a resistance to your growth more clearly than their words ever could. Learning to recognize silent resistance does not mean becoming suspicious of everyone around you. It means becoming observant. It means paying attention to patterns instead of excuses. There are people who will tell you they are happy for you while repeatedly minimizing your achievements. They may say, "That is nice," when something means the world to you. They may quickly remind you of everything that could go wrong. They may turn your success into a comparison, asking how much you earned, who helped you, or whether you really deserve what you received. Their words may sound harmless, but over time, the pattern becomes difficult to ignore. Sometimes silent resistance appears as absence. The person who always had time for your problems suddenly has no time for your victories. They were available when you were broken, but unavailable when you began rebuilding. They listened when you were crying, but became strangely quiet when you started laughing again. That contrast can teach you something important. Some people are comfortable being needed, but uncomfortable watching you become independent. This realization can hurt because you may have expected certain people to walk beside you through every season. You may have imagined that your success would strengthen your relationships. Instead, you discover that your transformation has changed the balance. You no longer need the same approval, advice, rescue, or reassurance that you once needed. And someone who built their relationship with you around your dependence may not know how to relate to your strength. Do not ignore these signs simply because you desperately want the relationship to remain what it was. At the same time, do not rush to label everyone who reacts differently as jealous or toxic. People have difficult days. People have their own struggles. Someone can love you deeply and still fail to respond perfectly to your success once or twice. What matters is consistency. Watch the pattern. Watch whether they eventually return to genuine support or repeatedly make you feel guilty for being happy. Your intuition often notices things before your mind is ready to admit them. You may feel uneasy after certain conversations. You may find yourself explaining your accomplishments instead of enjoying them. You may begin hiding good news because you already know how the other person will react. When you constantly have to protect your happiness from someone's response, something in that relationship deserves your attention. You do not need confrontation every time someone disappoints you. Sometimes the wisest response is simply to adjust your expectations. Stop giving intimate access to people who repeatedly mishandle your vulnerability. Stop sharing every dream with those who constantly discourage you. Stop expecting celebration from people who have demonstrated that they cannot provide it. This is not about becoming cold. It is about becoming discerning. You can remain kind without remaining naive. You can forgive without returning to the same pattern. You can love someone without allowing their insecurity to dictate the size of your life. When you learn to recognize silent resistance, you stop wasting precious energy trying to convince people to celebrate what they have already decided not to understand, and you begin giving your attention to the people who can witness your growth without asking you to apologize for it. There comes a point in life when you realize that waiting for everyone's approval is another way of postponing your own life. You can spend years asking yourself whether people will understand your choices, whether they will agree with your dreams, whether they will support your next step, and whether they will approve of the person you are becoming. But while you are waiting for permission, life continues moving. Opportunities pass. Dreams become quieter, and the person you could have become remains trapped behind the fear of disappointing someone else. You do not need permission to become happier. You do not need permission to become successful. You do not need permission to change your life. Of course, advice can be valuable. The people who genuinely love you may sometimes see dangers you cannot see. Listening to wise counsel is not weakness. But there is a difference between considering someone's advice and surrendering your entire life to their approval. One helps you grow. The other keeps you dependent. Many people were taught from childhood to be pleasing. They learned to say yes when they wanted to say no. They learned to choose a safe path because someone else considered it respectable. They learned to measure their decisions by how those decisions would look to family, friends, neighbors, co-workers, or strangers. Eventually, they become so accustomed to seeking approval that they can no longer hear their own voice beneath everyone else's expectations, but your life belongs to you. You are the one who must live with the consequences of your choices. Other people may criticize your decision today and forget about it tomorrow, while you continue living with the life that decision created. That is why you must eventually become brave enough to ask yourself what you truly want, instead of constantly asking what everyone else wants from you. Perhaps you want to leave a situation that has been draining you. Perhaps you want to begin again. Perhaps you want to pursue a dream that seems unrealistic to everyone around you. Perhaps you want to become quieter, healthier, more independent, or more ambitious. Whatever your path may be, there will always be someone who thinks you are making the wrong choice. If you make your decisions based entirely on avoiding criticism, you will become a prisoner of other people's opinions. And the strange thing about approval is that it is never finished. Today they approve of one decision. Tomorrow they question another. Today they praise you for being responsible. Tomorrow they criticize you for being too cautious. If you spend your entire life trying to satisfy every opinion, you will eventually lose touch with your own. You must learn to tolerate being misunderstood. That may be one of the deepest forms of freedom. You can let someone think you are wrong without rushing to prove that you are right. You can allow someone to dislike your decision without abandoning it. You can hear criticism without automatically turning criticism into self-doubt. This does not mean becoming stubborn or selfish. It means developing an inner foundation strong enough to withstand disagreement. Your happiness cannot depend on receiving a standing ovation from everyone around you. Sometimes the most important decision of your life will be one that nobody applauds at first. Sometimes the path that saves you will be the path someone else cannot understand. Sometimes you will have to walk forward while people you once trusted remain behind. Walk anyway. Let your actions speak over time. Let your consistency become your answer. Let your peace become proof that you were not wrong to choose yourself. Because when you stop waiting for permission to succeed, you finally understand that your life was never meant to be a performance designed to satisfy everyone else. It was meant to be lived with courage, purpose, and the quiet certainty that you are allowed to become who you were always capable of becoming. Protecting your joy does not mean becoming cold, suspicious, or bitter. It means learning how to keep something beautiful inside you, even when other people do not know how to honor it. There will be moments when someone disappoints you, misunderstands you, refuses to celebrate you, or reacts to your happiness with jealousy. Those moments can leave a wound, especially when they come from someone you expected to stand beside you. But you must be careful not to let their behavior transform your heart into something you never wanted it to become. It is easy to become bitter when you feel unappreciated. You begin thinking that nobody can be trusted. You stop sharing your happiness. You expect betrayal before people have given you a reason to expect it. You build walls so high that even the people who genuinely love you cannot reach you. You tell yourself that you no longer need anyone, because depending on people once caused you pain. But bitterness is not protection. It is another kind of prison. You can protect yourself without closing yourself off from life. You can learn from disappointment without allowing disappointment to become your identity. You can recognize jealousy without becoming jealous yourself. You can walk away from people who constantly disturb your peace without carrying hatred for them everywhere you go. This requires emotional maturity. You have to understand that people are going to respond to your life according to what is happening inside their own hearts. Someone else's insecurity is not your responsibility. Someone else's resentment is not your burden. Someone else's inability to celebrate your success does not mean your success is wrong. Let people reveal themselves. You do not have to force anyone to understand you. You do not have to convince someone that your happiness deserves respect. You do not have to argue with someone who has already decided to misunderstand your intentions. Sometimes peace comes from realizing that not every conflict needs an explanation, and not every relationship needs to continue in the same form. Protecting your joy also means becoming selective about what you give your attention to. If you constantly monitor who likes you, who supports you, who is jealous of you, and who secretly wants you to fail, you will spend your life looking outward instead of living inward. Your attention is precious. Do not give it away so easily. Celebrate your life. Enjoy the small victories. Be grateful for the progress nobody else noticed. Allow yourself to feel proud of how far you have come. Laugh without wondering who might be annoyed by your happiness. Rest without feeling guilty. Dream without immediately explaining the dream to everyone. You do not need to announce every blessing. Some things are better protected through privacy. Not everyone needs access to your plans, your healing, your relationships, or your next chapter. Sometimes silence is not secrecy. It is wisdom. You can allow your life to grow quietly until it becomes strong enough to speak for itself. And when someone refuses to celebrate you, resist the temptation to become someone who refuses to celebrate others. Their inability to love your light should never convince you that darkness is safer. Keep your compassion. Keep your tenderness. Keep your ability to believe in people, but pair those qualities with discernment. You can have boundaries and still have a generous heart. You can walk away and still forgive. You can stop trusting someone with your deepest thoughts without wishing them harm. You can choose yourself without becoming selfish. The goal is not to reach a place where nobody can hurt you. The goal is to become so grounded in who you are that another person's reaction cannot determine your worth or steal the joy you worked so hard to find. Keep your heart soft, but keep your standards strong. Keep moving toward the life that gives you meaning. Let people celebrate if they want to, and let them remain silent if they choose, because your joy was never supposed to depend on their applause, and the most powerful freedom is learning to carry your happiness forward without needing anyone else to give you permission to feel it.